Welcome back to Let's Talk Taxes.
Great to be here.
Today we have a really interesting deep dive, and you guys, DeMore Tax Service LLC, are the perfect people to talk about it.
Well, thank you.
So we're going to be talking about the new 2025 tax brackets.
All right.
Now I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Taxes, boring.
Right.
But trust me,
Yes.
this is exciting stuff.
It is.
We're going to uncover how these changes could actually mean more money in your pocket.
Yeah.
And to help us decode all of this, we've got a tax expert here from DeMore Tax Service LLC.
That's me.
They've been digging deep into a video by Sherman, my CPA coach, on YouTube.
Yes.
It's called IRS Releases New W-2025 Tax Brackets. What this means for your wallet.
And he did such a good job.
Yeah.
Like breaking it down so that, the average person can understand it.
Awesome. So tell me, what did you find most interesting about it?
So I think what's really interesting is most people hear tax brackets and they immediately assume the worst. But the reality is these adjustments for 2025 are actually pretty good news.
Okay, so let's break this down for our listeners a little bit.
Sure.
Sherman, he uses this analogy of buckets to explain tax brackets.
Yes.
Can you walk us through that?
Absolutely.
How does that work?
So it's a great way to kind of visualize how the system works. Imagine each tax bracket is a separate bucket.
Okay.
And so instead of your entire income being taxed at one rate, you're filling these buckets up.
Okay.
So your first chunk of income, that's going into the lowest rate bucket.
Gotcha.
And then the next chunk goes into the next highest bucket,
Okay.
and so on.
So you're only paying the higher rate on the income that falls within that specific bracket,
Exactly.
not your whole income.
Exactly. It's not like falling into a higher tax bracket suddenly means your whole paycheck is taxed more.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's all about understanding marginal tax rates.
Okay.
So that's the rate that you pay on each additional dollar of income as you move into higher brackets.
Gotcha.
And one of the things that Sherman highlights in his video is that for 2025, these brackets have been adjusted upwards
Okay.
to account for inflation.
So what does that actually mean?
More of your hard-earned money stays in those lower tax rate buckets.
I like that.
Yes.
So for single filers, the video points out that the jump from the 12% to 22% bracket happens at a higher income in 2025.
Right.
So that's pretty good news for single filers.
Yes, more money in your pocket.
Okay, so what about for married couples who are filing jointly?
So Sherman uses a great example in the video.
Yeah.
It shows that for many of the brackets, the income limits are essentially doubled for married couples in 2025.
So married couples are really getting some good news here.
Huge, because if you're married and filing jointly, you're getting a much wider range of income that's taxed at lower rates.
So it's almost like a double dose of good news.
Absolutely.
But let's talk about the standard deduction.
Okay, yeah.
The video mentions that's getting a pretty significant boost for 2025 as well. How does that factor into all of this?
The standard deduction is a fixed amount that reduces your taxable income right off the bat.
Right.
And in 2025, it's going up substantially. Now, this is particularly beneficial if you don't itemize your deductions.
Okay, for those who might not be as familiar with itemizing, can you quickly explain what that means?
Sure.
And how the standard deduction increase might affect whether someone chooses to itemize or not?
So basically, itemizing means listing out all of the individual deductions that you're eligible for,
Okay.
like certain medical expenses, charitable contributions, things like that.
Gotcha.
And if the total of those deductions is more than the standard deduction, then itemizing makes sense.
Right.
But with the standard deduction getting such a big boost in 2025, a lot of people might find that it's actually more beneficial to just take the standard deduction.
Rather than going through all the work of itemizing.
Absolutely.
So it might be time to kind of rethink your tax strategy and really crunch those numbers.
Absolutely. And a great way to figure out what the best strategy is for you is to have a conversation with a tax professional.
Right. And this is exactly where having the guidance of someone like DeMore Tax Service LLC could really make a difference.
Right, because these changes might seem simple on the surface, but their implications can be quite nuanced.
Yeah.
Especially when you start considering individual circumstances.
Right.
So a tax professional can really help you navigate all those nuances and make sure you're taking advantage of every opportunity to maximize your tax savings.
And make sure you're not leaving any money on the table.
Exactly.
It's not just about understanding the rules.
Right.
It's about understanding how to apply them to your own financial picture.
Exactly. To your unique situation.
All right. You ready to tackle capital gains?
Bring it on.
All right. So capital gains. This is where things can get a little tricky.
Yeah.
But Sherman does a great job breaking it down in his video.
He does, yeah.
And I think it's super relevant to our listeners, especially anyone out there who invests. So can you just give us a quick overview? What are capital gains?
So capital gains are essentially the profits that you make
Okay.
when you sell certain assets,
Okay.
like stocks or real estate.
Gotcha.
Now, the tax rate that you pay on those gains, it depends on how long you've held the asset.
Okay.
So if you've held it for more than a year, it's considered a long-term capital gain.
Right.
And that's where these 2025 changes come into play.
Okay, so what is changing with these long-term capital gains tax rates?
So the good news is the rates themselves are staying the same.
Okay.
You've got 0%, 15%, and 20%.
Okay.
But what's shifting are the income thresholds for each rate.
Okay, and I'm guessing that's where things start to get interesting.
Exactly, because these higher thresholds mean more of your capital gains can potentially fall into those lower tax brackets.
Right.
And Sherman illustrates this perfectly in his video
Oh, yeah.
with this example of a married couple. They show how a couple with the same income in both 2024 and 2025 could end up saving $450 in taxes in 2025 just because of these adjusted thresholds.
Wow, so $450 just from the thresholds changing?
Right.
That's a pretty compelling reason to pay attention to these details.
Absolutely. It really highlights how important it is to be strategic
Yeah?
with your investments
Really?
and really understand how these seemingly small adjustments can have a big impact on your overall tax liability.
So knowing that these thresholds are shifting in 2025, what are some smart strategies that listeners can use to potentially lower their tax bills?
Well, one strategy that Sherman touches on in the video is this idea of triggering capital gains in low-income years.
So if you know you're going to be in a lower tax bracket in a particular year, it might make sense to strategically sell assets than to take advantage of those lower capital gains rates.
Exactly. It's all about timing,
Right.
planning ahead. Another strategy to consider is looking for tax-deductible investments.
Okay, so things like contributing to a traditional IRA or a 401k.
Exactly. Those contributions can reduce your taxable income, potentially putting you in a lower tax bracket.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting that there are other tax-advantaged accounts out there,
Okay.
like HSAs or health savings accounts.
Okay.
Sherman doesn't go into too much detail on those in this video, but it's definitely something to explore,
Right.
especially since those contribution limits might also be increasing for 2025.
So many possibilities.
I know, it's exciting.
It is exciting. It seems like the overarching theme here is have a plan.
Yes.
And don't just wait till tax season to start thinking about these things.
Couldn't agree more. The more proactive you are with tax planning, the more opportunities you have to potentially save money.
And it's not just about reacting to these changes, it's about anticipating them
Yes,
and positioning yourself strategically.
absolutely. And that's, I think that's where a tax professional can really help.
Right.
It's one thing to kind of understand these concepts,
Yeah.
but it's another thing entirely to know how to apply them effectively in your own situation.
To your unique situation.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that DeMore Tax Service LLC really specializes in,
Yes,
helping people navigate these complexities and develop those personalized strategies.
absolutely. That's right. We're all about empowering people to take control of their finances.
Okay.
And a big part of that is understanding how taxes fit into the equation.
Right.
So, yeah, we believe that knowledge is power,
I love that.
especially when it comes to something as important as your taxes.
So for our listeners who are feeling a little bit overwhelmed by all of this information
Sure.
and thinking like, okay, where do I even begin?
Yeah.
What's that first step they should take?
The best first step is to reach out to a qualified tax professional.
Okay.
Schedule a consultation.
Okay.
Bring your questions, and let's have a conversation
Yeah.
about your specific needs and goals.
And get that personalized guidance.
Exactly.
Have someone in your corner who understands the ins and outs of these ever-changing tax laws.
Exactly. And at DeMore Tax Service LLC, that's exactly what we do. Awesome. We're here to help you navigate all the complexities, answer your questions, and make sure you're taking advantage of every opportunity to maximize your tax savings.
This has been so insightful.
Thank you.
I think what I appreciate most is that we're not just talking about these abstract concepts.
Right.
We're talking about real strategies
Yeah,
people can use to make a tangible difference in their finances.
that's what we're all about.
Yeah.
Making taxes less intimidating,
Right.
more empowering.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's about helping people achieve their financial goals and feel confident about their financial future.
And speaking of financial well-being, Sherman emphasizes in his video that these 2025 tax changes really underscore the importance of strategic tax planning.
Yes,
He's absolutely right.
he's spot on.
It's not enough to just file your taxes every year
Right.
and hope for the best.
Exactly. You need to be proactive, understand the rules of the game, and develop a game plan that works for you.
So for our listeners out there who are ready to level up their tax game
Yes.
and get serious about strategic planning, what are some key takeaways they should keep in mind?
Well, first and foremost, don't wait until tax season to start thinking about these things.
Right.
The earlier you start planning, the more options you have.
Be proactive, not reactive.
Exactly. Second, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Okay.
Taxes can be complicated, and there's no shame in seeking professional guidance. A good tax professional can be your biggest asset when it comes to navigating these complexities and making sure you're not leaving any money on the table.
Okay. And third.
Stay informed.
Okay.
Tax laws are constantly evolving, so it's crucial to stay up to date on the latest changes and adjust your strategies accordingly.
Knowledge is power,
Yeah.
especially in the world of taxes.
Absolutely. The more you understand, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions and protect your financial interests.
And speaking of staying informed, where can our listeners go to learn more about DeMore Tax Service LLC and the services that you offer?
You can find us online at DeMoreTaxService.com.
Okay.
We have a ton of resources on our website,
Awesome.
including articles, blog posts, information about our team and our approach. You can also schedule a free consultation directly through our website.
That's fantastic. I encourage everyone listening to check out their website and take that first step towards getting personalized guidance.
We'd love to hear from you and help you achieve your financial goals.
This has been such a valuable conversation. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground,
Yes,
really unpacked some of the key takeaways from Sherman's video.
I agree. It's been a pleasure discussing these important topics with you.
And a big thank you to our tax expert from DeMore Tax Service LLC for joining us today and sharing their expertise.
It was my pleasure. Always happy to talk taxes
Yes.
and help people feel more confident about their financial future.
All right, so we've talked about tax brackets, the standard deduction, capital gains, a lot of important stuff.
Yes.
But as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
What's the most important thing they should remember as they start thinking about their 2025 taxes?
I think the biggest takeaway is that these changes present real opportunities for tax savings.
Right.
But you need to be proactive and informed to take advantage of them. Don't wait until the last minute. Start planning now. Seek professional guidance if you need it, and make those tax laws work for you.
Excellent advice. And remember, folks, a little planning can go a long way when it comes to saving money on your taxes and achieving your financial goals.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, that wraps up our deep dive into the 2025 tax changes with DeMore Tax Service LLC. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Taxes.
And smarter taxing.
Oh, I like that. Smarter taxing. All right, well, on that note, I want to thank everyone for joining us for this deep dive into the 2025 tax changes with DeMore Tax Service LLC. We hope you found this episode insightful and empowering.
It's been a pleasure being here.
And to our listeners, remember, knowledge is power when it comes to your finances. The more you understand about these changes, the better equipped you'll be to make smart decisions and keep more of your hard-earned money.
Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or need personalized guidance.
Absolutely. You can visit DeMore Tax Service LLC online at DeMoreTaxService.com to learn more about their services and schedule a consultation. They're a fantastic resource for anyone looking to navigate these complexities and make the most of these 2025 tax changes. Until next time, happy saving and smarter taxing.
See you next time.
Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Taxes.